Hey there, I'm Amy Connell, and welcome to the Graced Health Podcast. I'm a certified personal trainer who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you're called to do. This podcast is for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate in the process. We are right in the middle of a series called In the Word, where we've been delving into scripture and seeing what God has to say about our health. Today, we are talking about something that, for me at least, is so hard to do, but it was modified time after time by Jesus. And that is self-care, which is probably not a surprise to you because it was in the title of this podcast episode. Now, I don't know about you, but I can have a really hard time practicing self-care. I mean, sure, I make sure and take care of my body by moving it and feeding it wholesome foods most of the time. I try really hard. But at times, after that, it can really be lacking. And right now, in the midst of COVID-19, it kind of just seems really hard to justify. I mean, after all, why should I practice self-care when there's just so much of all the things, so much suffering, fear, and uncertainty? I talk a little about this in the interview, but Elizabeth contacted me about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, which is like 3 years in coronavirus time. And she was offering to chat about smart self-care here on the podcast. I'm an internal processor, and so I just kind of wanted to think about it since we are in the thick of In the Word series. And then two things happened. One, I had one of those days. One of those days, like I can't stop crying. Any little sweet, tender image makes me tear up. Any image of empty streets on Times Square makes me tear up. Like everything was really, really challenging for me. And not to say that I haven't had moments like that, but it was a really, really intense day. And then the second thing is I realized that we saw Jesus practicing self-care time and time again, no matter what was going on. He retreated. He went off by himself. He left the crowds. I mean, we saw this. He demonstrated it. So why was it so hard for me to actually figure out how I could apply it to myself? I went ahead and said, hey, you know what? Let's get on. I think I need this. And so if nothing else, it's going to be great for me. And I think it's going to be great for other people. I'm so glad I proceeded with this conversation. Elizabeth brought so much wisdom, peace, and, my favorite, grace to something that really can feel unnecessary during these times. Elizabeth is a passionate advocate for smart, sustainable self-care, especially for women who are juggling the demands of career, family, and life. Elizabeth has been an intuitive life and business coach, speaker, and retreat leader since 2000. She's appeared on PBS and in Experience Life and Martha Stewart's Body and Soul magazines. Elizabeth is known for her ability to inspire busy professionals to manage self-care as an integral part of their plan for success in both business and life. And really, as a result, women of all ages find themselves moving from tired to inspired. And doesn't that sound great right now? Now, before we move on, I want to remind you of two things. One, make sure you join the Graced Health podcast Facebook group. That is where I get on every Wednesday after the release of new episodes on Tuesdays. And I have a Goofs and Grace where I talk about all the things that maybe I messed up or wish I would have expanded on more. It's always a lot of fun for me. And then also, if you have not yet, make sure you get the 14-day devotional I wrote. It's free. Just go to the gracedhealth.com/devotional. I'll have the link below, and I'll send that to you. You'll just get one in your inbox every 14 day or every day for 14 days. And it really kind of delves into my heart and talks a lot about where God and faith intersect with our health. So you are really going to enjoy what Elizabeth has to say. I'm not going to talk about her anymore. I'm just going to bring her on. Elizabeth, it's so fun to sit here and talk with you. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what day, I think everybody's day, like day number X of quarantine. And I'm like, I stopped counting. I don't even know where we are. I barely know what day it is because they're all kind of running together. I would love to hear what the day of Elizabeth was like today. So I'm not what's a normal day, not what do you hope to get done, but just like, what have you been up to today? What does life look like for Elizabeth Barbour today?
Oh my goodness. Well, it looked like not a lot of sleep last night. And I've had some good days, but last night was not one of them. It looked like snuggling with my daughter in the morning on the couch and kind of, getting settled and situated for the day. I did a Facebook Live at 9 o'clock this morning for my Facebook group called Celebrating Connections. And we were talking about, feeling isolated and feeling overwhelmed and everything that goes with what's happening right now. And then I had a client call and still haven't had lunch. So, how about you? How was your day?
Oh, my day was pretty good. It's funny to hear you say you didn't get a lot of sleep. My husband and I get up together in the mornings. Lately, since he's been working from home, I'm using air quotes here, sleeping in till like 6:15. And
Woo!
yeah. And anyway, he came and woke me up, and I could tell because there was light coming in from the bedroom. I said, "Have you been up for a while?" And he said, "Yeah." He said he woke up at like 3, finally got out of bed at 4, and then he'd been working. Work has just been crazy for him. But yeah, I got up. I had my quiet time. I always like to get a little devotional or Bible time in, prayer, all of the above. I have been doing Facebook Lives for fitness classes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because
Yes.
I'm not really doing, my normal classes that I'm in, the normal training that I have been. And so that's kind of, this sounds more dramatic than it is, but I was telling him this morning, I said, this kind of gives me purpose right now. Like it gives me a reason to get out of bed with my husband. Gives me a reason to like get up and get moving and start thinking about things. And so that little community, and some people watch live and some people do it later, but it's really life-giving to me right now. And quite honestly, it's kind of the only way I know how to serve. We all want to do things for people, and it's hard to know what to do when you can't leave your home. It's a very, very helpless feeling. And I can only speak for myself, but I feel, I know that there are some people getting out. Our church has been really involved. And then I start having these conflicting emotions where I feel like I want to help, but I feel like um, I feel like I know that they're doing a lot of things to protect people, but, I feel selfish because I'm not, but at the same time, I don't know that that's what's best. I have mild asthma, I have hypertension, and my
Here.
husband's really concerned about me being, you know, contracting this. So it's just been,
Yeah.
I don't even know where I was going with that. Anyway, I did the Facebook Live.
Well,
Where that
and
came from.
can I jump in and say that, what you just talked about is what I'm hearing from a lot of women that I talk with, whether it's my coaching clients or whether it's friends and neighbors. It's this, um, the contradiction between wanting to kind of stay in and nest and take care of ourselves and be focused on family, but then also how can I serve, how can I help, where am I needed, and I think really the sweet spot lies somewhere in the middle, right? Which is true anytime, I think, but it's how do you manage both and keep your sanity?
Right. Right. And feel, I think a lot of it is feeling confident in doing what you're doing, and that's where you need to be. And that's, where you feel like your purpose is for that moment, and not being like, well, but she's doing this, and, getting caught in that comparison trap too. Cause that's a really easy thing to do, especially right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you reached out to me, and I'm so glad you did. And I don't even know what day it was because, again, I don't know what days it is. And you said, hey, if you have any, I know you have a podcast, and if you have any desire to talk about self-care, I would love to have that conversation with you. And I said, okay, that's good. And, sometimes things just kind of need to marinate with me. And
Mhm.
earlier this week, I had a really, really rough day. And I know everybody's having rough days. And what I am witnessing just from looking at things on social media is I think people are feeling the same way I am, in that I'm fine and then I'm not. And then I'm
Yes.
okay. And then I'm less okay. And it's this ping pong of emotions going back and forth and back and forth. And I know I told you when we talked briefly yesterday, I've been trying to write a blog post, and I can't even get my thoughts together to even like make it cohesive so it wouldn't be a burden for people to read. So it made me think, I think I need to have this conversation. So you basically are going to do a therapy session with me today. And people can listen. Because I think I need some self-care, Elizabeth.
I think so. And I think you probably know what you need to do. You just may need a little support and inspiration around doing it. So we'll talk about that.
Well, yeah. Well, let's dig into that. So, what would you say to people who are feeling like that right now? Like, I'm all over the place, yet I'm stuck.
Yes. Well, because I think what happens is that we forget what we know in times like this, right? We allow all of the stress and the anxiety and the worry and the lack of schedules and the extra people in your house that aren't supposed to be there,
Hmm.
kind of take over. And we forget the basics of what we know. And that is, slowing down, being present, breathing, praying, meditating, going for walks in the woods, turning on the music and having a 5-minute dance party, eating something delicious and yummy, but not overindulging. Like we know the basics of what to do, but in times of stress like this, we tend to forget. So I think sometimes it's just a reminder to come back to what is tried and true for you. In my Facebook group, I had asked everybody, what are you doing for self care? And what's interesting is that the answers are all really very different. For some people, it's Zoom calls with family and, listening to jazz music and, cooking wonderful new recipes. And for other people, it's playing board games with my family or sleeping in late or, walking the dog, so it's different for everybody. So you need to know what's best for you.
Hmm. Well, I do know that I have to move or I will go crazy.
Okay. So that's number one for you. You have to
Yeah,
move your body. Great.
right.
How much every day?
I think that really varies. I like the formal aspect of like an exercise, 30 minutes of like formal exercise.
Hmm.
But I do really cherish getting outside too. And we've been very blessed here in the Houston area with nice weather lately. So
Yes.
yeah, getting out and doing that. And then, for me, I think part of self-care is um being able to accomplish some just small goals and feeling like I've done something. It's funny, my son and I were having a conversation about his school because, all of the schools are going into distance learning and online learning and all of that kind of stuff. And I said, "You're not doing anything." He said, "Mom, just because you don't see me doing anything, it doesn't mean I'm not doing anything." And so we kind of dug into that a little bit more. And he said, one of us were talking about how for me, um, productivity is a good thing. Like that makes me feel really good. Um, of course, I don't want to get too much into it, but we realized that, oh, I feel like he's not doing what he needs to be doing because I'm not seeing him. So we agreed that he kind of needs to check in with me and said, okay, I did this for chemistry and this for history and da, 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 da. So for me, I think it's like I want to write, I'm working on this writing project. I just want to write 500 words a day. And then
Hmm.
I feel like that fills me up because I feel somewhat productive.
Yes. Well, and I think what you're talking about is so critical for anybody going through a difficult time, but is pick small, manageable goals. Not such big, hairy, pie in the sky type things that you can never achieve them. Because if you create manageable, achievable, realistic goals and you set them, then that helps you feel better. It's like, okay, good. I did something today. I can be proud of myself. And you have a sense of accomplishment, as you said, and relief. And release too, just even be able to focus on your writing for a little while instead of worrying about the news and what's happening in the world and where are you going to buy your next roll of toilet paper from.
Right. So true. I know you've talked a little bit about SOS. Can you kind of fill my listeners in on that and the kind of the basic tenets of that?
Sure. So whenever I'm speaking with a group of women, I'd like to talk to them about sort of what I call an SOS self-assessment. And, if you know the International Morse Code, you know that SOS stands for Save Our Souls or Send Out Succor. It's the international distress signal. And I encourage people to go through the SOS system, which is really just checking in with yourself, with others, and with spirit. It's that idea that when you're driving your car and the little red gas light goes off and you take a look at it and you say, oh, wow, look at that. It's an indicator light. It lets you know that your gas tank is low. But you don't get mad at the light, right? You don't go, oh, I can't believe you just went on. Or you don't ignore it. You don't put a happy face sticker over it and go, la, 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 I'm going to keep driving my car and pretend I didn't see that. No, you go, oh, look, that's an indicator. Let me go ahead and stop and fill up in the next, 25 miles.
Mm-hmm.
We all have those indicators in our lives. So when we do an SOS scan, we're able to check in, and you can do this every day, really, and just say, okay, SOS for today. What do I need? And check in. Where are you with yourself? What's your relationship with yourself? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating well enough? Are you talking to your besties? Are you, going for a run? Whatever it is that you need to do to take care of you. Others, what's your relationship like with others? If you haven't called your mom or your sister or your best friend or, whoever those important people are to you, if you haven't done that in a couple of days, do you need to circle back and check in and see how they're doing? If you're fighting with your kids or your partner, do you need to say, maybe we need to have a little family meeting and kind of talk about how our communication is right now, because we're all on edge a little bit. And then, the other SOS is for spirit. How are you feeding your spirit right now? Are you taking time for, like you said in the morning, you love to get up and do your devotional reading. Are you taking time to read your Bible or read your inspirational materials? Are you taking time to pray and meditate? Maybe it's going out and hugging a tree or, planting flowers, because of course, spirituality is so personal for all of us. But I think when you can check in and see where you're out of alignment, that gives you information. So you might say, oh, I'm doing well with taking care of my physical body, and I'm doing well with connecting with my friends and family, but I really haven't been doing a good job of talking to God lately, and I need to go have a little chat with him.
Yeah.
So it can kind of guide you in where to go for that day.
Now, you talk about like indicators, and you particularly talked about this with self. Are there certain things that we should be looking out for? I mean, I know, we were all created uniquely. We're all going to have different things, but are there some kind of like top hitters, for lack of a better word, of indicators that things are not lining up right, and we kind of need to do that SOS check?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, as you said, we are all very different and unique. I would definitely say the two things I see the most with my clients are anger and tears and frustration. So I think for some people, and often I think the anger is hiding what's underneath. Anger is sort of that fiery emotion of like, and you're getting mad at everybody and frustrated at everything, and technology is not working, and your kids not doing their homework, and your husband forgot to take the trash out, or whatever. But oftentimes underneath the anger is the deeper. That's where the grief lives. That's where the sadness lives. So I think that they show up at different times. It's just like grief. If you studied any of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's work, about the stages of grief. And we all know they're not linear, right? They kind of pop all over the place. So we have acceptance, and we have denial, and we have shock, and anger. I'm missing one. I forget what the other one is. But they kind of show up at different times. And I think that's what's happening now for people. So I would say anger, grief, frustration, those are probably the big ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that too, you just read, I read before you and I were getting on, I was reading this article about how 1,400 NYPD officers now have been tested positive for the coronavirus.
Oh
And,
goodness.
and I think a lot of it, I know for me at least, is I don't know what to do with the grief for them and their families. And this is just one example, but we've all read, there's been a million articles of stuff about that, but and like what, I don't know, I don't even know what to do with it. And so I don't think I do anything with it. And it
Mhm.
eventually comes back up as tears. Uh,
Yeah.
cause it's hard. And I think the way your personality deals with things too, will shine through sometimes with that as well.
Well, and I think I love how you phrase that. You said, I just don't even know what to do with that. And I think that that's where, in my experience, that's where ritual and ceremony can be so helpful. Just a simple act of maybe lighting a white candle every day. And you light a candle in the morning, maybe it's sitting on your desk or in your kitchen or in your bedroom, wherever that is for you, and you just light a candle and you say a quick prayer, sending out my love and blessings to all the people who are hurting and suffering right now. That's one thing you could do. One thing we do in my family, every night when we have dinner, before we eat, we say grace. And then right after we say the grace, we say special prayers for. And each one of the three of us will chime in. We'll say, special prayers for, grandma who's sick, or, we'll say it for our leaders to help us navigate this crisis, or for so-and-so that we heard just tested positive with coronavirus. So we get very specific, and we do that every single night. And sometimes we say the same things, and sometimes we say different things. But there's a ritual in that that's a container that allows us to know where to put it. Other rituals could be just simply journaling, every night or every morning, just saying, okay, what was good about my day. We've talked about gratitude, so maybe we'll talk about that a little more later. But then also, what am I ready to let go of today? Where is my heart hurting today, and how might I like to release it and give it over to God?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that, the ritual and ceremony of that. And I'm sitting here thinking, Amy, why didn't you think about this earlier? Because I thrive under schedules, and I thrive under kind of more rituals. So, that's brilliant. I will definitely be figuring out how I can incorporate that in. Let's lean into that gratitude that you just talked about, because one of the things, Elizabeth, I have been struggling with is this juxtaposition of recognizing gratitude in the season, right? Like, I reframing things like I have to stay home. I can't go anywhere, to I get to. And so this is something I've been trying to do and trying to be intentional about on social media. But somewhere deep inside of me, I'm thinking, but I don't want to not honor those who are hurting and who are grieving and who are scared out of their minds because they might lose their job, or how are they going to feed their children, or they might be evicted, or how are they going to pay their employees. I mean, and the list goes on and on and on. And so I've had a hard time having both of those in the same mental space. Um,
Mm.
so can you guide us in the gratitude? Because I know that's so important. And as someone who reads the Bible, I know how important it is to be thankful. But I feel like I'm not I don't want to forget those who 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 are just struggling so much right now.
Hmm. But just because you express your gratitude doesn't take away your compassion and your concerns and worries for others. Like they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I don't think gratitude X's out the prayers and worries that we have for others. They get to exist side by side. It's not an either or, it's a both and. My clients who know me know I say that a lot.
Hmm.
It's a both and. You get to grieve for those people and be concerned about them and do whatever it is that you can do, whether it's, sewing masks for nurses or donating blood or volunteering at the food bank or coloring lunch bags for, the kids who are having meals, sent home to them. And you get to stay in that flow of gratitude because honestly, that is what's going to get us through this. And if the only thing we're doing in the morning is waking up and saying, I'm so grateful to have another day of life, and I'm grateful for the birds singing, and I'm grateful to have food on my table, like that's enough. But there's that notion that energy flows where, no, sorry, energy flows where attention goes. So if we, and that's why I'm always telling people, like, don't watch the news too much. I'm not saying don't watch it at all, because you got to get your information, especially in this day and time. But be very discerning about how you're consuming it and for how long, and then shift your energy away to something positive. So if you are going to watch the news, do it for 15 or 30 minutes and then immediately go for a walk or go spend some time with your family or have a dance party. Like shift the energy, because you want to stay in that more positive place, because that's what's going to get us through this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And I know you also have talked some about being in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, d- Help me understand a little bit more about that and how we can practice doing that when I think we feel so uncertain about everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you, my best friend and I have been texting a lot about this over the last few days, and about 6, 8 times a day, she'll say, "Breathe. Are you breathing? Breathe. Are you breathing?" I'll be like, "Oh yes, that's right. I forgot to do that today." Um, and I mean, really, it's something as simple as our breath to just draw us back into our body. Maybe it's touching our bodies. Like she's a brain health educator, and I don't always understand everything that she does, but she tells me, tap your legs or your opposite legs, your left and right, or do the same with your arms. Tap either one, and you just kind of alternate, and that kind of helps you to get fully in your body, and it also helps your brain to process all of the input that we're getting, and it helps you to kind of like just bring it back in and calm it down a little bit. But I think getting into that present state, the best way to do it is through the five senses. So looking at something that's beautiful, maybe it's buying fresh flowers for yourself when you go to the grocery store, that your one time a week that you're supposed to be going, right?
Right.
Or maybe it's walking out barefoot in your backyard, putting your feet on Mother Earth and looking at all the beautiful flowers that maybe you planted, because I know a lot of people have been doing gardening. I know we sure have. And maybe you take pictures of them and then you share them on Facebook with people. Maybe it's cooking foods that have good aromas or using essential oils that have yummy smells. But when you can use those five senses to help you get back in your body, it can help you be grounded in that present moment. Because it is so easy to let your brain run away. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about, oh my God, how long are these kids going to be home? Like, how long? That's where my anxiety comes in. Like, I can't
Yeah.
work if my kiddo's home.
I know. And she's a little bit younger than my kids are, I think.
Yes.
Remind me how old she is, please.
She's 9 in third grade.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that third grade. I mean, that's young and that's really hard. I mean, I feel like
And
it's
how old are
funny.
your kiddos? They're
Mine
teenagers, right?
mine are 14 and 16, so eighth grade
Yeah,
and a sophomore.
it's
And
different.
thankfully for the most part, they are their own tech support now. When they were 9, they were not.
Right? Yes.
It's funny, about 2 weeks ago, I was telling my kids, I said one of the hardest seasons, I mean, there are lots of different elements of every season they're in that are really, really difficult. But I said, I was so glad when you guys got old enough that I was not tech support anymore, because that, I mean, it was just enough to pull my hair out, or yeah, I mean, it was crazy. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Well, and I know too, I wish I would have recorded our short conversation yesterday, because uh, you were talking about her, and if you're uncomfortable with this, we can definitely edit this part out, but you had said that she was having a really hard time yesterday and
Yeah.
very frustrated, and
Yeah.
you said that she just was, curled up in your arms and crocodile tears, and my response was,
Mhm.
oh baby, like it just hurt my heart. And then, do you remember what you said to me? Because I'm going to let you say it if you remember.
I don't recall.
Okay, so you said, we've got to give ourselves the grace that we're giving others like that.
Mm.
And that's really stuck in my head. And let me tell you, there's not a lot sticking in my head right now. It's all it really is not. But that has, over the last 24 hours. And I thought that's so powerful, which is funny,
Oh.
because I talk a lot about that when I speak to women and I'm talking about body image. I'm like, we've got to give others the grace, or we've got to give ourselves the grace we give others. And that was such a good reminder to me, that even in this space, to give myself the grace that I don't know what I'm doing. Brene Brown in her first podcast, she just had one come out, and she talked about FFTs, and I won't say F because I don't want to use the explicit sign on this one, but it's, F first time. And it's like, when we're all in
Mm.
the first times, we don't know what to do. And so, anyway, I love that you said that to me yesterday, just in a moment. And I love that, uh, your wisdom just shone through, and you didn't even remember what you said. So
No, I didn't. Well, and I think, and now I'm remembering, we talked a little bit about space and grace, and I think they are both so critical right now. Like we need to give ourselves the space to feel all the feelings, the big ones, the hard ones, and even the happy and exciting ones. I mean, I think people are finding that, oh gosh, I actually just had fun, and gosh, I kind of feel guilty about that. It's like, no. It's okay to be fun, and have a good laugh with your kids while you're throwing the football around in the backyard, or whatever it is that you're doing. But I think we need to give ourselves the space to feel the myriad of emotions, because it's just, I mean, we feel them every day during normal life, but everything's just heightened and exacerbated now.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, to give the grace to others. I mean, I find that I'm much more able to give my daughter grace than I am for myself. But as you said, like with the body image stuff, I mean, would I ever say to my best friend or my other girlfriends what I say to myself about my own body? No. Oh my
I know.
goodness, no. So what makes it okay, to say it to yourself? So yeah, I think space and grace are both so critical right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I do want to get back to the concept of smart self-care,
Okay.
because I think, sometimes, I mean, I love how you have smart in front of it, because self-care can can turn from being pure and needed and life-giving, to, maybe if we take it a little too far, it might be detrimental to ourselves, to the ones we love, to our bank account. I mean, like, there's a lot of different ways. So
Mhm.
can you help me understand a little bit more of what you mean by smart self-care, and then maybe give some examples or best practices or something like that?
Sure, that's great. Well, I've always thought of it as smart self care because, I think in our society, uh, and in marketing and advertising, it's self care is, oh, go spend a day at the spa and get a mani and pedi and get a massage and you'll feel better. Or go have a night out on the town with your girlfriends and have a couple glasses of wine and a big piece of chocolate cake and you'll feel better. And not saying that those things in and of themselves are bad. They're not. They're perfectly fine. But self care is so much more than that surface stuff. It's so much more than a one and done, like, let me go have an experience and then I'm done. Self care is ongoing self love and mindfulness and presence about how do I want to be walking through this world, and how do I want to care for myself and then ultimately care for others in the process. in terms of some best practices, some of the things that I write about in my new book that's going to be released later this month. So thanks for asking about Smart Self-Care. That's the name of it, Smart Self-Care for Busy Women. And it's going to
I
be
love it.
available on Kindle. But, I write about just the importance of, again, just the really basic things like journaling. It's amazing how many women say, well, I need to journal and I want to journal. And I did it when I was younger, but I just don't take the time to do it now. And then once I coach my clients through, hey, let's keep a journal for a couple of weeks, they go, oh, it was so helpful and so enlightening, because you're able to put in a journal. And then this from being a writer, Amy, that when you're able to express your true emotions in a journal, you are able to dig deeper and you're able to go further, because you know that no one else is going to be seeing it or reading it. This is just between you and yourself. It's very private. So you're able to access that deeper wisdom that you have. Obviously, one of your favorite strategies, of course, is movement. We have got to move our bodies. And I think that's one of my fears. And I don't know if you've seen this, and maybe that's why you're doing your awesome service work with your Facebook Lives. But I'm seeing people who are taking the stay-at-home order to mean stay inside. And so they're not leaving the house. I've talked to people who are like, oh yeah, I haven't left the house in days. And I'm like, you need to be moving your body. Like if you're inside, you at least need to be putting on a video from Amazon Prime and doing a yoga workout or a Zumba workout or kickboxing. Like move your body.
Yeah.
Because that is one of the best ways, to really take care of yourself. And along with that, so I would say, and to move and do it outside. I think Mother Nature is probably the greatest equalizer and the greatest balancer that we have. If you look at everything in Mother Nature, it's all perfectly timed and perfectly orchestrated and perfectly balanced. And if you think about it, people say, oh, I don't want to rest. Well, if Mother Nature, if trees and shrubs and flowers, they can't skip winter. Because if they
Oh,
skip,
that's really powerful. Wow. Okay. I know that, but
well, but they can't, right? Like,
yeah.
the bulbs need to go underneath the soil and they need to rest, and the trees need to, or the dead leaves need to fall off the trees, and the tree needs time to grow new ones. So you can't skip winter. And it's true for our bodies and our minds and our spirits, just as it is in Mother Nature. So I think that for me, that's always the biggest thing. I'm like, if you can't do anything, just go outside. Like
Yeah.
go outside. And even if it's raining or if it's snowing or if it's sunny, no matter where you are, but just go outside, because that will calm anybody down.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I find the greatest moments of clarity I have are both often spiritually, but as well as just in anything else, and in my writing are outside. So I have actually been taking my laptop outside, putting in my AirPods, listening to like steady instrumental music, and that's where I've been doing my writing. Being outside just is a total game changer for me, even if I'm sitting.
Nice.
But yeah,
Nice.
that fresh air is huge for
That's
sure.
great.
For sure.
Well,
Oh, go
can I
on.
just can I just add? I love that you're combining those things too. And I tend to be a multitasker, but whenever you can hit more than one good self care strategy at a time, that's great. So maybe it's I'll tell you a quick funny story. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said, "Oh, I had a friend who turned 50 during this time, and she couldn't have a party." And I'm thinking, man, I'm glad I got my 50th over back in January. Because I had two parties and I needed the hugs and the people. But so what this woman did is she had an impromptu Zoom dance party. So she had all her friends from all over, and everybody logged onto Zoom, and they cranked up the music, and they all had their own little, dancing in their own homes, but they were together. So I think that whenever we can combine, self-care, and in that case, it's, community, along with moving our bodies, it's always a good thing. So
How fun. Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. And I
yeah.
think I interrupted you. This is why I'm not very good at interrupting, because then I get off track, but I'm actually coming back right now. So you gave us a few best practices of journaling and movement and being outside. Were there any other ones that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I mean, I really think prayer and meditation, and I always tend to mention them together because did you ever read Liz Gilbert's Eat, Pray, Love?
I did.
Okay. So that came out a long, long time ago. It's been out, gosh, 20 years maybe?
It's been a
Um,
while. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. And it actually came out. I had gotten divorced long, long time ago. Now I've been happily remarried for a very long time. But so that book came out soon after my divorce. So I really related to her and her journey, sort of her crisis of the self and who am I and what do I want? And, all of that angsty stuff that she wrote about in that. But one of the scenes that I remember the most, I think it was on the roof of the ashram when she was in India. And she talked about the distinction between praying is where you talk to God, and meditation is where you listen for the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just always remembered that because I think so often we get into the prayer mode of, help me, please guide me, please help me figure my way through this or whatever. And sometimes we do prayers of gratitude. Of course, I hope we do that, right?
Right.
But I know lately I've been doing a lot of help me prayers. But you can't get the answers if you don't create space to listen. And so that's why I always, when I, talk to people about best practices, I'm like, make sure you have both the prayer and the meditation time so that you can both transmit and receive. So
I love that. That's a really great point. And I'll be the first to admit I am not great about meditating. And it's funny, I did an interview with a therapist for some of my episodes in May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. And she said, "Well, I won't ask you why you won't like meditation." I said, "No, I don't mind telling you." And I said, I feel so vulnerable, and especially with my people home right now. Like, I mean, I could be dancing like a fool. I could be doing just about anything else, and I don't mind them walking in on me. But if I'm just sitting there, it's weird feeling to me, and I just need to get over myself. But it's one of those things that I always love it when I do it, and I don't take the time to do it. And I think if nothing else, it gives me empathy for those who are like, I love exercising, I just don't take the time to do it. It's kind of the same mindset.
mhm.
But this might
Yes.
be a really
Well,
great time to step back into that.
and I really hear what you're saying about that vulnerability, and I think you're probably not alone with that. Um, and two thoughts that come to mind in response to that is one is I know when I meditate, my best chance for meditating is the first thing I get up in the morning. Like get up, go potty, maybe brush my teeth, and then I climb back into bed and I'll sit there and meditate for just 10 minutes. Because if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it doesn't usually happen.
Mhm.
So that's my first thought, because then no one else will see you except for maybe your husband, but hopefully he's either asleep or elsewhere. The other thought is, have you ever considered inviting any of your family members to meditate with you? There are so many wonderful guided meditations out there with beautiful music, and I mean, there's just so many different types of them out there. Maybe that becomes a family thing. Like, hey, can we try this thing and see what we think? Because I know, now I won't say I've done it in my house, I haven't, but I have some other friends who have had success either meditating with partners or meditating with their children. I have one girlfriend actually who meditates with her children every night. I think they do like a 7-minute guided meditation as part of their bedtime ritual before they say prayers and read stories and all that stuff. So,
Well, I have not considered that, but I will consider it.
I hear a little resistance in
No,
there.
I'm going to consider it. Like I told you, I have to let things just kind of sit and marinate for a while. So, but I will consider it. I think that might be a really great thing, and probably I would get some eye rolls from at least 2 out of the 3 people in my house or other
Uh-huh.
people. But it might not be a bad thing to do it with other people. Especially having teen boys. I know it's a lot harder for them
Mhm.
to communicate and have a language for emotions and deal with that. And so it might just be kind of a good centering time where
Mhm.
they don't have to have the right words to say and they can just be there. So I will. I really, and
Yeah.
In all earnestness, I will consider it and see if I can get any takers.
That's great. Well, and ultimately what matters is you do what you need to for you, so if that's, you meditate for, 5 minutes before you take your shower or whatever, you just find what works for you.
That's
So.
true. That's true. And I know you also have talked a little bit about 5-minute check-ins. Do you have time to go over those really quickly with me?
Sure. Yeah. Just kind of some 5-minute strategies for self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a Facebook Live on this the other day with some of the women in my group. So yeah, would love to share. Well, it's actually, I think we've probably talked about all of them
Okay.
already, but yeah, maybe I'll go back through and I'll highlight them. So one, and I can't say it enough, breathe, 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 people. It is so
Yes.
amazing how we just breathe from our neck up, but not that that deep belly breath.
Mm-hmm.
So I think breathing is so critical. And if you can sit and breathe for 5 minutes, I mean, I'm not so great at doing that, but maybe set your alarm, your timer for 60 seconds and just do some deep breathing. You breathe in for, I don't know, there's so many different counts, right? You breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you release for 4. You can breathe in for 8, hold for 2, release for 8. There's lots of different ways you
Right.
can do that. Meditation and prayer, of course, we've already talked about that. But it's amazing how often we skip that. And I think we mentioned that earlier, but in the middle of everything getting so busy and frantic, just even 5 minutes to sit and focus on that, whether it's a quick, quiet meditation or just 5 minutes of saying some prayers. Whether you're sitting quietly or maybe even a walking meditation, that works too. But that's so important. Music is such a big one. Now, dance parties are always fabulous to go along with the music, but sometimes, like, I'll find just scrolling through Facebook and someone will maybe post, oh, I don't know, the show The Voice. I love that show because I love that it's all about the person's talent and not about how they look and how they present themselves on stage. Sometimes I'll just sit and watch a 5-minute clip of music, and it's just inspiring and uplifting. I think, laughter. This is what we haven't really talked about this a whole lot, but I think laughter is so underrated. And especially right now, because I don't know about you, but there's been way more stress and a lot less funny stuff going on. And, I think that, so I pulled this out for my husband the other day. We had given him for Christmas a calendar of bad dad jokes. And I mean, they are really,
awesome.
some of them are really bad, like really, really corny. And we were just having a bad day the other day. All 3 of us were kind of meh at each other. And so I pulled it off the counter and I just started reading a couple jokes. And then we were all sort of groaning, oh my gosh, that was so terrible. We were laughing, within a couple minutes, I told maybe, 6 or 7 jokes and we were laughing. It was like, such a simple thing, but a great way to shift the energy. One of my other favorite videos too. Have you ever seen that cat and cucumber video?
No.
Oh my gosh, you've never seen the cats and cucumber
No.
video? Okay,
Tell me about it.
All you have to do is go into Google or YouTube or wherever and just Google cat and cucumber video. And what they have done is the stupidest thing. I don't know why. It's like my guilty pleasure. They have filmed all these different kitty cats, and the owner will sneak up behind them and place a cucumber near them, and the cats go batty. They they jump or they squeal, and then you kind of feel guilty because you're laughing at these poor cats that are freaking out over the cucumber. But it is so funny. So whenever we've probably watched that video, I don't know, 24 times in our family.
Oh, how funny. No, I'll have to go look at that.
Go Google
I'll find that. I'll find that and link to it in the show notes.
Yeah, I mean, it's so silly, but and I know there's other videos out there like that, but sometimes just that like 3 to 5 minute of like total goofiness can just completely shift the energy in a room or in like a family dynamic or whatever.
Yeah.
And something I just said, another quick 5 minute is, it's okay to indulge in your guilty pleasures. It's okay to, I wouldn't suggest it every day, but if you need to stand in the pantry and eat the Reese's peanut butter cups, not that I've ever done that.
No, of course not. Me
But
either. Come
if you
on.
need if you need to do that once in a while, it's okay. Or if you're someone who normally eats keto and paleo and you've had some carbs slip in, maybe you've had some potatoes or some rice, it's okay.
Hmm.
Maybe you've been binging Netflix. I don't know about you. I'm into Outlander right now. I'm not binging it. I'm watching just one a night. But if you need to sit and watch 2 or 3 episodes of something, it's okay. So I think those guilty pleasures sometimes, we think we should be doing something good and noble. Let me eat healthy and let me exercise. But sometimes just sitting on the couch for a little while is okay too. So,
Hmm. Hmm. One
um,
thing I love doing is scrolling or finding pit bull videos on pit, not the singer, like the dog breed, because my dog is a pit bull mix,
oh, okay.
on Instagram, and watching them, and they're just as cute as, I mean, cute as can be. So that's my little guilty pleasure.
Very unusual guilty pleasure. I'm not sure how many people share that with you, Amy,
Oh,
but
there are enough. My friend Tamara does the same thing.
oh, really?
Yeah. Well, they're just so cute, because they're such a misunderstood breed. And so I
Yeah.
just love looking at how sweet they are. And then one will pop up that looks like mine. I'm like, oh, that looks like my Grace. So anyway, sorry. See, here I go, interrupting you again. Sorry.
No, 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 no. It's all good. The last thing I'll share, I mean, because I've got a bunch more, but I know we need to wrap up here, is also remember in 5 minutes, clean something. And, that goes back to what you referred to at the very beginning. You talked about, I just want to accomplish like something today.
Yeah.
So take 5 minutes, set a kitchen timer, set the timer on your phone, and say, you know what, I'm going to tackle this little corner of my kitchen that has a stack of papers here. The magazines that either need to be read or pitched, the bills that need to be paid. For 5 minutes, I have a friend who used to say, clean something every day that can't be undone in just one day.
That's good.
That
Yeah,
was
that's
really
good.
good advice. So now, I don't know about you, I can't quite clean my junk drawer in 5 minutes. But if I clean my junk drawer maybe on the weekend, maybe take 30 to 60 minutes to clean it, it's going to take me another 6 months before it gets messy again. You know what I
Right.
mean? But I think cleaning something or tidying up can be very, I don't know, it's just satisfying.
Cathartic. Yeah. It's very cathartic for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, that's my mother shining through, I think.
Yeah. Me too, I think.
Same reason I put a little lipstick on before I get on Facebook Lives, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I must admit, I still haven't showered today, but I have my hair and makeup done. So,
No, nor have I, Elizabeth. And it's not 8 a.m., just so everybody knows.
exactly.
Oh, goodness. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. Hey, if people want to get in touch with you, can you tell them the best ways to do that, and then resources they may have? I know you mentioned your book, Smart Self Care. Congratulations, by the way, on releasing that. I know it is such a bigger deal than anyone realizes. And I know that's a huge talk about feeling accomplished. That's a huge accomplishment. So congratulations to you on that. But tell people how to get it, and how to get in touch with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, so the best way, of course, is just through my website, which is elizabethbarbour.com. And my last name is spelled OUR on the end. And one of the quickest ways to get some immediate support from me is I have a freebie download on there. It's only like 11 pages, but it's this beautifully designed 7 daily rituals for self-care, sanity, and success. So if you just go to my website and you sign in there, just give me your name and your email, I'll send you those 7 daily rituals. And that can be a really great touch point to really help you with your self-care journey right now. And then if you then are on my mailing list, then you'll get the announcement about the book. As you said, the Smart Self-Care for Busy Women is going to be coming out probably the end of April. I'm kind of putting some final details in place, but that'll be available on Kindle. So you will be able to get it on Amazon, but I'll let my newsletter list know when that will be coming out. And then the other great place where I really enjoy hanging out is on Facebook. I spend a lot of time there, both on my personal page, so people could always look me up and friend me there, elizabethbarbour.com, or Elizabeth Barbour, Barbour. Or I have a Facebook group, and we're having some really, really lovely, honest, open conversations in there. And that one is called Celebrating Connections. So if you just go into groups and you search Celebrating Connections, you'll find the group. I started it just 2 weeks ago, actually. So at the very beginning of this coronavirus stuff. And I think I had 18 people, and now we're almost up to 300. And it's just growing because people are inviting their friends, saying, come hang out here, because it's a positive, uplifting, inspirational space. But we're also not Pollyanna either. Like we're digging deep and looking at the hard stuff. And I think people are really enjoying that. So I'd love to invite any of your listeners to come join and hang out over there with us. So
yes, fantastic. It is a great group. Thank you for inviting me to that. And,
well, thank you.
Yeah,
that's how we got hooked up with this. So this is so perfect.
I know. All right. Well, thank you again for your time. I'm so grateful for it. I know you do have some other things you need to get going on, but I look forward to, number one, considering meditating with my family or inviting them. And number two, just kind of figuring out, like I said, I have to think about these things, but I love conversations like this that challenge me and will help me identify next steps to take. So, so thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your grace that you give so many people, and just for your calm presence, because I don't know if you realize that you are, but being a part of your community and knowing you really do offer that. And I think that that's what people need right now.
Oh, well, thank you so very much, Amy. It's been a delight to be here with you. And thanks for all you are doing out there in the world too, because, we all have to do our part, right? So we each are serving in a little different way right now. So
yeah, well, just in the ways that, we were gifted. So
that's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Elizabeth. It was great talking with you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. That conversation was just so good for my soul. I think for me personally, the two takeaways that I can really apply in that, one simple thing for me to remember is that concept of ritual and ceremony. I love the visual of just lighting the candle in honor of those I'm praying for. For me, that's just giving it to God. And it's just a physical reminder that this is not something that I have control over. It's not something that I can do, but I can pray for it, and God's got it. So I just love that visual that she gave. And then I might get brave enough to invite my family to meditate with me. Maybe. It's funny. I was talking with my son shortly after I did this interview, and I said, have you ever meditated? And he said, oh yeah, I did one time with my girlfriend. And, I was really surprised to say that. And he goes, yeah, it was really weird. Like they tell you to relax your body and you think you're relaxing your body. And then it says, relax your cheeks. And I'm like, oh yeah, my cheeks are really kind of tensed up. And then they tell you to take the tongue off of the roof of your mouth. And oh yeah, my tongue is on the roof of my mouth. And so if nothing else, maybe he'll meditate with me. Now I just need to find an app. The app I used to use intermittently is now no longer free for the first 10 episodes. So if you know of one, reach out to me on that Graced Health podcast group and point one to me, because I would love to know where to go for that. Hey, if you haven't already, please make sure you rate and review this this podcast if you can, if you've listened a few times. And then also make sure you hit subscribe so you will automatically get these in whatever your listening device is, Apple, Spotify, whatever. Also, if you would like to receive show notes directly in your inbox, because oftentimes I have freebies and goodies and stuff like that, make sure you go to gracedhealth.com/podcast, put your name and email in there, and I will proactively send you anytime I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a free download. You get that. So I try and make it valuable, because I don't want to have invaluable stuff in my inbox. If I don't want it, I'm not going to do it to you. Okay, that is it for today. Go out there and have a great day.